Okay, so we're here today for how to write a book in a weekend, even if you have no idea where to start. Now, to increase your viewing pleasure for this masterclass, I want you to turn off everything that's operating in the background. Silence your phone, close your door, give yourself this time to learn some secrets about book writing. Now, you're in the right place if you want to write the right book for the right reader quickly, efficiently, and fantastically. I specialize in helping my clients write their books quickly, efficiently, and fantastically. And not just to write any books, but the right books for the right reader that they're targeting. Now, you're probably wondering, who am I? Who is Candace Duff? Well, I'm a published author. I write under two different pen names, and my books get 4.5-star ratings on Amazon. I'm a certified book coach. I coach attorneys and professionals and authors how to write books quickly, efficiently, and fantastically. I'm an attorney myself, and I'm board certified in construction law by the Florida Bar. But mainly I practice as a mediator lately and as an arbitrator. So I'm a private judge, and I'm also a neutral that helps you to resolve disputes. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I'm a big sister and a devoted auntie. Now, on the left there is my official headshot is LJ Taylor, and in the middle that's my baby sister Indy. She's 14 years younger than me. I'll be 90, and she'll be like 76, and I'll still be calling her my baby sister. I made a mistake. And on the right there is Indy with my nieces and my nephew, the loves of my life. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey. I started off as a very busy lawyer in a large law firm, and I made partner there in 2001. And I always wanted to write books, but I told myself I didn't have the time. I was killing myself trying to make partner, and after I made partner, getting acclimated to being a partner. And the closest I ever got to writing books was going to Maui, the Maui Writers Conference every year on vacation, which was fantastic and intellectually stimulating, but I never actually published my own book while I was there. And then something happened. If you recall, the real estate market crashed in 2007, 2008. And it was just like this pandemic, the economy basically went to hell. And I was a practicing construction lawyer and real estate litigation lawyer, and I was representing, developers, condo developers. And suddenly developers couldn't pay their bills. And suddenly what was a very secure job where I was a star became a lot less secure. Right? And I had to reinvent myself. And I told myself that if I was going to reinvent myself, I was going to do it all the way. I was going to reinvent my life. I was going to stop kicking my dream of becoming a published novelist to the curb. And I was going to grow in all those different aspects. So I decided to write a book, but I didn't even know where to start. I had no idea. I was an avid reader. I had read a million books, but I had no idea really where to start with writing the book, even though I had attended all those writing conferences. And I tried writing the book on my own, but I didn't get very far because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I tried taking more writing seminars, but they were more geared toward, how to put sexual tension into a scene, how to put more romance into a book, how to, do action scenes, or how to write dialogue. They weren't really geared toward how to get the book done from start to finish. That's what was missing. And I joined writers groups, and that kind of helped because I was at least around other authors who had more experience than I did, some of whom were published, but it didn't get me all the way. Then I discovered National Novel Writing Month, also known as NaNoWriMo. And basically, maniacs from all over the globe, of which I count myself one, sign up on a website every year called nanowrimo.org. And we vow to write a 50,000-word novel in 30 days, from November 1st to November 30th. And I did that for the first time back in 2007. And you know what? It worked. I actually finished the first draft of my novel, of what later became Just Dreams, my first published book. So I whipped out the first draft of that book in 30 days. It finally worked. And when I discovered that I could write a book in 30 days, I became obsessed with how to write them even faster, with how to write them even better, with how to streamline the process. And I did a ton of research on that topic. And I went to more writing seminars, but these seminars were geared toward, how to write a book from, beginning to end, how to write books quickly and efficiently and fantastically, how to streamline the process, how to make it easier on yourself. And I did NaNoWriMo every year from 2007 to 2014. And I wrote 7 books in 7 years, and I published 4 of them so far, and a short story. And I discovered a system for writing books fast over that 7-year period. So you're probably wondering, how does this apply to you, right? I discovered some very important things writing 7 books in 7 years. I discovered that it wasn't my fault that I didn't know how to write a book at the beginning because I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have anybody holding my hand. I didn't have anybody teaching me what to do from beginning to the end of the process. I didn't even know what that process was. And I used to think it took a long time to write a book because writing my first book took forever before I actually did NaNoWriMo because I thought you had to painstakingly agonize over it for years for it to be good. And I used to think that if I wrote a book fast, it wouldn't be good. But having written 7 books in 7 years, and the fact that my books get 4.5-star ratings on Amazon, I know that's not true. And also, I discovered something else. I discovered that there are great novels that we consider great American literature in this society that were written in very short time periods. For example, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne was written in 2.5 days. A Clockwork Orange, which I read in high school, by Anthony Burgess, was written in 3 weeks. I, the Jury by Mickey Spillane in 9 days. The Gambler by Dostoevsky was written in 26 days. Did you know he wrote that book to get his brother out of gambling debts and trouble? He had to write it fast and get that money fast so he could pay off those gambling debts. On the Road by Jack Kerouac was written in 3 weeks. One of my favorite books, A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I love him. I love the Sherlock Holmes series. Was written in 3 weeks. And what I learned writing 7 books over 7 years became the basis of the framework that I teach today. So I call it the Silk System, and it's everything you need to take you from book idea all the way to finished book. First, you start off with the first step, submit and ignite. That's the SNEI. How to set your book project up for success from the very start. And you do that by properly preparing for it, by honing in on your book idea, on your target market, who are you aiming for, your target reader, the genre of your book format, and outlining your book. That's how you set your book up for success. Because if you don't know where you're going every step of the way, you'll end up somewhere else. And that's from the great Yogi Berra. The lock part of the Silk System has to do with the actual writing of the book, and it includes the fast writing tips, tricks, and techniques that I've learned over the years that allow you to achieve book writing speeds of up to 5,000 words an hour and produce cleaner manuscript. No, that's not a typo, and no, that's not hype. Storytelling techniques that help you keep your readers entertained and engaged and get your points across, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. Because even if you're writing nonfiction, you need to know how to tell a good story. Because stories, when you think about it, is how we get our points across, right? In our books, stories are how we learn. So whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, you need to know how to write a good story. You need to learn those storytelling techniques. Guerrilla writing and accountability techniques. And these are techniques to help keep you excited about your book, to help keep you immersed in your writing project so you can get it done, and accountable to your book project so you can get to the end. And then the lock part, book revision, tips, tricks, and techniques that help bring your stories to life, because revision is where the real writing takes place. It's where you go through your book scene by scene if you're writing fiction, and chapter by chapter if you're writing nonfiction, to make sure that you get your book ready for outside editing, to make it look as polished as you can get it. And then key, because this is the key to actually launching your book. So we're talking about cover design, we're talking about self-publishing and launch tips. So you can bring your book to life and put it to work for you, and whether you want to use it for some other type of business or for your author business. Now, learning this system and learning these techniques helped me to learn how to research my genre and my target readers to give my books a leg up on marketing. This is the sort of thing that'll keep you from launching to crickets. To the sound of crickets, right? I mean, some of us have launched books before and didn't get any sales whatsoever. And that's because we didn't really think about what are the requirements of our genre? What are the requirements, what are our target readers expecting, right? What do they want? It also helped me prepare for my writing projects so I could write my books fast. Because if you have an outline and you know where you're going every step of the way, you'll be able to write that book that much faster and with that much less pain. And this allowed me to increase my writing speed so I could produce up to 5,000 words an hour. We're going to talk about some of these fast writing techniques. And it helped me to go from book idea to book launch in weeks instead of months, right? As long as you have everything lined up and you know where you're going every step of the way, it doesn't have to take you forever to whip out a book. Now, these techniques didn't just work for me, they work for my coaching clients too. And I coach clients in all different areas of business, or all different areas, period. They range from already published authors, traditionally published authors who want to know how to write faster, or nonfiction authors who want to go into fiction, or fiction authors who want to pump out books faster, business owners, coaches, consultants, doctors, lawyers like me, speakers, experts, entrepreneurs, anybody who wants to write a book to further their goals. That's who I coach, that's who I have coached, and that's who this system works for. So you're here today to learn how to write a book in a weekend, even if you have no idea where to start, like I did. Now, the first secret number one, is how to set your book up for success before you write the first word. Because the time to think about book marketing, the time to think about what your goals are for the book, is not after you write the book and say, gee, who's going to buy this? It's before you put the first word on the page. Let me say that again. The time to think about book marketing is not after you write the damn book. It's before you put the first word on the page. I say that with so much emphasis because so many writers just write a book and try to figure out how to sell it later. And that's the biggest mistake that you can make. And the secret to this is preparation. It's getting everything set up in advance so that you know where you're going, who you're writing for every step of the way. And I help people prepare through my bestseller book challenge. And here's what I teach in that bestseller book challenge so you can see, what the steps are. And I'm showing you this for a couple of reasons. The first step is mindset, because if you walk around thinking it takes forever to write a book, it takes a long time to write a book, it's too much work to write a book, or who am I to write a book? I'm not an expert, or I'm not a good writer. These are mindset issues that are lies that you tell yourself that will hold you back and keep you from ever writing your book. So it's really important to deal with these mindset issues up front, right? To be the first thing that you deal with before you start working on your book. Because you don't want perfectionism, procrastination, low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, and things like that every writer deals with. I mean, even I deal with it from time to time, but I have the tools now to deal with it, and I teach my clients the tools to deal with it. You don't want those things to hold you back from writing your book. Then you got to hone in on your why for writing the book. Because if you just want to write a book because you like to see your name in print, that's not going to be enough to get you through your writing project. I'm not going to lie to you. A writing project is a lot of work. Whether you do it quickly or whether it takes you forever, it's a lot of work. And the only way you're going to be able to get it done is if you really have a good fix on your deeper why. I'm not talking about your surface why, gee, I want to make money. No. I want to make money because I want to leave a legacy for my family, because I want to make sure that we never have to struggle again, because I don't want anybody else to tell me what I have to do in life. Like your deeper why, I take you down 7 levels so that you can really understand what your real motivation is, whether it's helping people, whether it's fulfilling your destiny, whatever the case may be. You need to know your why, because that's what's going to sustain you through your book project. And then clarity, because some of us have like 5 or 6 book ideas in our heads, right? And we want to write about so many different things, and we want to try to put it all into one book. But you might have a story that needs to be a series, a fiction series. You might have an idea that needs to be 3 or 4 books. And a trick is getting really clear on which books you want to write and which one you want to write first. And when you have that book clarity, creating the book is going to be so much easier. And so in my challenge, there's things that you can, I actually have a one-on-one with you where we actually really hone in on your book idea and distill it down. And that's what book clarity is all about. The next step that you need to do is to target your ideal reader. Who are you writing this book for? If you're writing a memoir, are you writing it because you want to inspire people? Are you writing it just to tell your story? Are you writing it because you think it's going to help a specific segment of people? Who are you targeting with your book? If you want to write fiction, romantic suspense, who reads romantic suspense? How old are they? Right? What type of romantic suspense do you want to go on? Who is your ideal reader? What do they want? What are their problems? Right? So what are their wants, needs, and desires, and how can you fulfill them? So targeting your ideal reader is going to be really crucial when it comes to marketing later on. And it's going to be great because if you write your book geared toward a specific type of reader, then they're likely going to be there waiting for you to buy the book at the end. You're less likely to launch the crickets, and you're more likely to write the right book for the right reader. Next is something I call book hacking. And actually, this is really book research. And this is like taking the top 10 books in your genre, for example, and taking a real good look at the cover design, the formatting, the type of content they have in there, how content is designed, to get ideas for how you might want to design your book, how you might want to format your book, to really take a good look at the book reviews and see what people liked and didn't like about the genre, what their reader expectations are. You're basically hacking the most successful books in the area to actually see what holes there are in the market, where you can plug in, and what you need to have in your book to make sure it succeeds in that particular area. So that's why book hacking is really, really important. And I'm not talking about plagiarism. I'm talking about getting ideas for your own book and knowing what's expected of you and what holes there are in the market in your particular genre area. And that helps you to discover your best-selling book topic, because picking a topic out of the air is one thing, but picking a topic that's really timely, that people need, that people want to read about, that people are looking for, is really crucial. So after you do your book research, that's going to help you to discover your bestseller book challenge topic. And I actually help you figure out what the best topic might be based on the research that you did. Then we're going to mind map or do a brain dump of our books. And that's where we actually dump all of our ideas into a single mind map or a single document so that we have them all there down on the page and that we can organize them later. And then we do an outline of your book, which is really important, because if you know how you're going to format your book, what elements are needed for the book, whether you're going to use a template, what goes into each chapter, and that sort of thing, that's going to help you guide you step by step by step, so you'll never feel lost, right, when you're working on your book project. And you know what you're writing every step of the way, and that'll help you write it 10 times faster than wandering around the desert. Okay? Storytelling. Now, you need to learn very important storytelling techniques and which of these techniques resonate most with people. And the reason why this is important is because you're going to be figuring out which story you want to tell, or which stories you want to tell for each section of your book, how you want to tell those stories, and where those stories fit into your book. So if you're writing nonfiction, for example, what stories are you going to use to illustrate step 1 or step 8 of a project, if it's a how-to book? Or which stories are you going to use to illustrate, to get the most bang for your buck in your memoir? Which areas of your life have the most impact in your life? And how do you want to tell those stories, right? What techniques are you going to be using to tell those stories? And once you figure out which stories you want to tell and how you're going to tell them, you're going to plug them into your outline in the appropriate places so that you know in chapter 2, I'm going to be telling this story. And then we come to what I call method madness. And there's more than one way to write a book. I have a freebie that I give out called 13 Ways to Write a Book. And in that freebie, I talk about all these different methods that you can use. And here is where you choose how you're going to be putting your book together, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. I don't know who came up with that statement. It needs to go away. But there's more than one way to write a book. Some examples, okay? Are you going to do an anthology and have people organize an anthology where you're the editor or the organizer, and you're going to have other writers, for example, submit stories to put into your book? Are you going to write it yourself or with a partner? Are you going to have a partner co-write the book and a co-authorship? Are you going to dictate your book so that you can write it, a lot faster? And we're going to talk more about book dictation later. Are you going to use existing content to write your book? Are you going to compile blog posts or use podcast transcripts or articles that you've written as the basis for your book? And how are you going to organize it? So choosing the method of how you're going to put your book together depends on what resources you already have, on what you think will be best in terms of putting together your book. Is it going to be a compilation of expert interviews? There's so many different ways to put together a book. So I help you choose a method here and tell you how to go about, using that method. And then choosing a best-selling title. People don't realize, but you need a good title that's going to be intriguing to both your audience and that's friendly to the algorithms on Google, on Amazon, on iBooks, or wherever the heck your book is sold. So you need a title that people can look at and really understand what the book's about and know that they want to buy it, right? Be able to recognize it. And you also need a title that resonates with people, that intrigues people, And there's so many different naming conventions that you could use to put together a title, a best-selling title and subtitle, and what goes into both. And you learn that at this on day 12 of the challenge. Then you need some dynamic chapter titles, because when people use the look inside feature on Amazon, I don't know if you've ever like looked up an ebook and clicked on look inside, you can actually see the outline for the book, the index for the book. And if the chapter titles are intriguing, that makes you more likely to want to buy the book. And we want to do everything possible to make people want to buy your book. So I teach you how to use dynamic chapter names that will intrigue people. And then you got to figure out how to launch the book, because there's so many different launch strategies that you can have. You got to decide, am I launching it just online? Am I doing a free plus shipping offer? Am I doing, a different type of launch? Am I going to have a launch team? Am I going to just, get on a whole bunch of, do blog tours? I mean, there's so many different ways that you can launch your book and so many different components that can go into it. And here I give you an in-depth look at a few launch strategies that you can decide to pick and choose for your own. Now that brings you to secret number 2, how to figure out which book to write. And that's really important, because even though that's part of the challenge, you really have to dig deep in there and figure out what book to write. If you know who your ideal reader is, then you and your research you do in a challenge, you're going to figure out what their pain points are, what their wants, needs, and desires are, what their goals are. And you're going to think about, what problems do you solve? What problems did you solve before, for example, the pandemic? Because we want to write a book that's timely. We want to write a book that's relevant. What problems did you solve? Did you just entertain people? Hey, that's good. People need entertainment. They need escape and things like that. Did you solve a specific problem, like how to teach them how to create businesses, how to be entrepreneurs, how to do social media marketing, or in my case, how to write books? What problems do you solve? And it's more than just writing books. It's how to write books to do what, right? And then what problems do they have now? So you need to think about more than just what problems did you solve before the pandemic. You need to think about how those problems may have shifted and morphed and changed and evolved, right? Being that the world changed nearly overnight. So you got to think about, what problems do they have now? And what problems can you help them solve now? What are your solutions to those problems? What solutions can you offer to those problems? So when you think about which book to write, these things and these issues are going to inform your books. Even if you're writing fiction and you're thinking about what story to tell, right? What stories are going to resonate with people more than ever? If you write romance, love conquering all in the time of the pandemic, hey. If you write political fiction or spy novels, you're going to be thinking about settings and topics that you can discuss that are timely in your novel and things like that. So basically, you need to think about these issues when you're thinking about which book to write, in order to make your book relevant, in order to make your book intriguing. And then finally, the main secret that you're all here for, how to write your book fast in a weekend, right? And the secret to writing your book over a weekend is not so much a secret. It's actually dictation, speaking your book, but it's not what you think. I mean, bottom line is, we can talk a heck of a lot faster than we can type. And it's not impossible. It's actually quite common for some authors to get up to speeds of 4,000 to 5,000 words an hour. When you think about it, a full-length book is 50,000 words. Now, full length in your genre might be 90,000 words. For example, if you write fantasy, for example, or historical romance, they tend to like longer books that are like 400 pages. But hey, if you only need 150, 175 pages or 200 pages, you can actually dictate your book in 10 hours over 2 days of a weekend. And you can definitely do that. The secret to it is knowing what the heck you're dictating before you ever sit down to dictate. So you might have a mini outline. You might say, today I'm going to dictate the foreword to my book. And you might have a mini outline of the foreword so that you know what it is you want to say about it. So that when you sit down to dictate that part of the book, you're not lost. You're not sitting there looking at the recorder going, gee, what do I say? You actually have an idea of what you want to say because you have a mini outline there. And then you go ahead and riff. Now, there are many benefits to dictation. One, it's the fastest way that you can create drafts. right? So it's a way to actually create drafts quickly, efficiently, and fantastically. And the second benefit is that it creates a conversational tone. And that's important because when you are, if you look at the most successful business books, A 4 Hour Work Week, Think and Grow Rich, they don't talk over your head, right? They actually talk like they're talking to you, like they're giving you advice, like they're telling you stories. And they don't talk down to you. They're in a conversational, relatable tone. Dictation actually fosters that because you're talking into a recorder. So since you're talking into a recorder, it's more like you're having a conversation with somebody versus typing stilted big words on a computer. Okay. It also makes for more realistic dialogue and fiction. What better way to make sure your dialogue sounds right and reads right than to actually speak the dialogue out? Think about it. It makes for much more realistic dialogue. So that's a huge benefit of dictation. And then another big benefit is that you don't sit there getting carpal tunnel and whatever they call it nowadays with bad, home office ergonomics, right? A lot of us don't have our computers, and I'm probably guilty of that too, set up properly in order to preserve our backs and things of that nature. So, and our arms and our shoulders and our neck, and we're hunched over like I am right now. So, if you're actually dictating your book, then you are much less likely to encounter these physical writing ailments. Now, people think that dictating a book is actually all newfangled and wrong, but you know what? It's actually old school. I mean, classic authors like John Milton and Henry James used to dictate. They didn't have iPhones back then or Android phones to dictate into voice recorder apps, but they did have assistants who took down every word they said, and they dictated their books. Dictation is actually the wave of the future, and it's actually right now. Best-selling authors like Dan Brown and Barbara Cartland, God rest her soul. Barbara Cartland died at like 90-something years old. She was a British romance author who wrote like 90-something books over her lifetime, if not more. I'm always underestimating them, most of which were bestsellers. I mean, and she dictated her books. So she can do it, you can do it. Now, you're going to need to know what kind of dictation equipment to use. And actually, this is not hard at all because you can just use your phone. Whether you have an iPhone, whether you have an Android, or whatever, you can just get a voice recorder app in your phone, any kind of app that will allow you to create either a WAV file or an MP3 file. So the basic recorder app in your iPhone is perfect. You could just email it to yourself or upload it to your computer and deal with it from there. Or you could use a voice recorder like this. I actually have this one, which I like this one too because it's a voice recorder. It's not, taking up space on my phone, and I could actually, stick a cord in it and go ahead and upload it directly to my computer. And once you have a recorded file after you've dictated for the day, you can use a dictation service, for example, like Rev. They charge $1.25 an audio minute, but this is like the best, 99% accuracy, a quick turnaround time. It's actually much less than the 12 hours they have here. And you're likely to get a smoother transcription. Another service you can use is actually Timmy, and they're like 25 cents, a minute. And this is fantastic too because you can actually get it for a lot cheaper. Now, Timmy's going to have more errors than say Rev would, live Rev, but Rev actually gives you the option of either doing live at 125 or doing machine translation, which is like 80% accurate for 25 cents. So these two have lower cost options. Of course, you could use speech to text software like Google, Google has a speech to text, capability. A lot of Macs or Apple notebooks or whatever have speech to text capability. Speech to text, there's some drawbacks to it because they can be, if you're sitting there in front of your computer while you dictate, then you might not feel as comfortable because you're watching, mistakes being made on the screen. Your best option if you're going to do that is to turn away from the screen while you dictate so that you don't actually see what's going on the page and you can just fix it later. Because people always forget that the object of the first draft of the book is to get your ideas onto the page. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. And first drafts are really perfect. I don't care if you're Shakespeare. So what you're going to have to do is go back and clean up that dictation, but at least you'll have a chapter dictated by the end of the day, and then you can clean it up later. I prefer, if you're going to use dictation software, to use something like to use something like Dragon software, because that's 99% accurate, especially after you train the Dragon. So I use Dragon software. I upload the voice recording to my computer, and then it automatically translates in minutes using Dragon dictation, and then I can clean it up later. And I can train Dragon to understand names or the way that I say things, that you can have less and less mistakes. And by the way, just so you know, Rev actually has an app that you can put on your phone where you can dictate it and upload it directly from your phone to Rev. You could also use services on Fiverr.com. They can actually be cheaper. They can have live transcriptionists type your files up for cheaper than live on Rev. So you can actually get a live person to type up your stuff on Fiverr, for example, or Upwork or someplace like that. Let me ask you a question. Are you ready to whip out the first draft of your book? Are you ready to stop fooling around, taking 5 years to get it done, and whip out the first draft? Because you know what? Like I said, a first draft doesn't have to be perfect. Like Nora Roberts says, you can fix a bad first draft. You can't fix a blank page. And she ought to know, how many bestsellers does she have? Okay? Let me introduce you to Write Your Book in a Weekend. And this is my 2-day workshop. It's actually going to be a virtual workshop. I normally hold this workshop in person. I normally lock you into a hotel ballroom. Not really, but sort of. For 2 days where you actually work on nothing but your book. And I do it in small groups of like 15 people. And I give them like individual attention and, one-on-ones with me. We get to step out while everybody else is, doing time-guided writing sprints and things of that nature. And I help you get unstuck on your book and help you whip out the first draft in a weekend. So this year, we're doing it virtually. In light of the coronavirus and a lot of safety issues and stuff, we're going to actually do it virtually, and we're going to do it over Zoom. And what we do is we spend 2 whole days over a weekend working on your book. At first, I teach you, I make you an old pro on dictation. If you have any hesitancy about how to dictate your book, how to get better at dictation, we do dictation drills and all that stuff. And before you actually ever get to that weekend, I put you through the bestseller book challenge, because that way you set your book up for success before you ever get to the virtual Write Your Book in a Weekend, and you're ready and raring to go. So you get the 2-day workshop where you actually get, to spend time with me. You get one-on-one with me. We get to step out into a separate breakout room on Zoom, and I get to help you get unstuck on your book if you need to. In the main room, we're going to be doing some teachings on on dictation and how to dictate your book, on anything, on fast writing techniques, on guerrilla writing techniques, and anything you need to know to get your book done. And then we're going to do these time-guided writing sprints where we do nothing but work on your book the entire time. By the time we get to the second day, we're just whipping out your book in like 8 hours. And that's what the Write Your Book in a Weekend workshop is like. I keep that small. I keep that under 25 people so that we can go ahead and make sure that you get the attention that you deserve. And that's where we focus, like I said, on your book. We do the time-guided writing sprints. You get one-on-one consultations with me during the event where we step out of the main room, and you get refresher instruction on everything that I give you beforehand. Now, the benefits of writing your book in a weekend is that you get to write your book fast. You don't have the first draft of your book hanging over your head like the sword of Damocles. It gets done, or at least mostly done, in that weekend. We eliminate distractions. The problem is, if you're not focused on your book, you're focused on 50 million other things. You're focused on work. You're focused on the family. You're focused on, watching the news about the pandemic and freaking out. You're focused on so many different things that that you need to eliminate in order to get your book done, at least for a finite period of time. And the great thing is, this is not forever. We're talking about a 2-day commitment. You get to eliminate overwhelm. When you think about writing a book, it feels like a sword of Damocles hanging over your head, a huge weight on your shoulder, a huge project and a huge problem if you don't have any guidance. Here, you're actually focusing on it and working on it. So that whole overwhelm goes away. You're doing it in an environment where there's like-minded individuals that are working on your book with you, right? And that's one of the main benefits. You get to defeat all those mindset issues like imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and attacks of the inner editor. And you get to do that because when you write your book fast, you don't have time to be sitting there worrying about who am I to write this book? You're writing the book, right? You don't have time to think about perfectionism because you are doing time-guided writing sprints and you're whipping out that first draft and you know it doesn't have to be perfect. And you don't have time to edit your book because you edit it later. You don't edit the first draft while you're writing it, you edit it afterwards, right? And this makes you do things the right way in the right order. Now, before you even get to the weekend, you get a one-on-one book clarity session with me. So you're going through the challenge, the bestseller book challenge, each of the steps, and then you and I have a session where we actually hone in on, what book you're writing, hone in on your target market, your ideal reader, your genre. So we hone in and make sure that this is all refined down so that you know where you're going every step of the way. So the weekend workshop is a $5,000 value because that's 16 hours with me. The one-on-one book clarity session is a $500 value. That's what I normally charge for those one-on-one sessions. And that's a total value of $5,500. You get the challenge, the bestseller book challenge. I do sell the challenge separately for $97, so that's a $97 value. And actually, that challenge has a heck of a lot more value than that when you saw all the steps that we go through and everything you learn in it. So the total for the workshop, the weekend workshop, the clarity session, and the challenge, total value is $5,597. I also give you one of my courses, which is called 10-Day Book Bootcamp, and you get this in advance of the weekend. And in there, you learn for the first time all these fast writing techniques. And there's much more than just dictation and time-guided writing sprints that I teach you in terms of how to write fast. And you have lifetime access to this course, and you can actually refer back to it for each and every book that you write. So that's a $997 value. It's called 10-Day Book Bootcamp. So the value of this package, which includes the workshop for the weekend, the book clarity session, the challenge, and the 10-day book bootcamp course, the total value of this package is $6,594. Now you can see why that would be a good deal at $6,594 when you think about all the value that you get in that package and what you could actually do with it, right? How many books can you write now and in the future? What use can you put those books to? If the books just get you one more client, for example, would you already make your money back even if you paid the full price? I normally teach this workshop in person for $1,500 a shot because that's where we're there physically in a hotel room, locked in, working on this. But because you're here today, and because it's going to be online, I'm going to give you this package for just $497. $497, you can get started. And that's the link, CoachCandiceDuff.com, Book Writing Weekend. And I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat so that you can go ahead and click on that. Now, I had two choices. I could have gone as cheap as possible. I could have made the virtual workshop really large and try to sell as many spots as possible. But that wouldn't have been optimal because I wouldn't be able to give you enough attention, right? That's why I keep these workshops small. The second option requires a little higher investment, but I can have smaller classes and I can devote and give you more time, more attention, and more resources. That's why we can have the one-on-one beforehand. And that's why you can have so much attention during the weekend workshop. Now you have two choices, right? You can just do nothing. You can keep putting your book off for another year. You can keep missing out on more opportunities, to start your book writing career, to use your book to further your business, to get more speaking gigs, whatever the heck it is you want to do with your book. Or you could make this investment. You could actually write your book, finish it, put it to work for you, and start making the impact that you want to make. It's up to you. Now, if all this program did was help you set your book project up for success, would it be worth it? If all it did was help you write your first draft fast and well, would it be worth it? If all it did was help you conquer the mindset issues that are keeping you back from writing or finishing your book, would it be worth it? Of course it would. If it helped you attract new clients or establish your expertise or get new speaking opportunities or start or further your business or create an author business, would it be worth it? What's it costing you not to write your book? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. What's it costing you not to write your book? Is it costing you self-esteem? Is it costing you self-worth? Is it costing you the possibility of making an impact? Is it costing you the possibility of starting an author business? Is it costing you money? Is it costing you fulfillment? Right? You tell me. What's it costing you not to write your book? Satisfaction, happiness. Imagine how your life and business are going to change after you become a published author, or if you are a published author after you whip out the next book. How good is it going to feel to hold your book in your hands? How will your colleagues, prospective customers, and others see you after you become a published author? How will your value as an author, a coach, an expert, a professional, a speaker, or a consultant increase? How many ways are you going to put your book to work for you? Whether it's to grow your business, whether it's to have an impact, whether it's to reach more people, whether it's to get the word out. So go ahead and sign up now and let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go back and take your questions. That's what I'm here for. Let me see if I can stop share. Okay. Now, one of the main questions you probably have is, when is the seminar? Because I forgot to put that in my presentation. The seminar is actually going to take place on June 13th and 14th. So the seminar will take place on June 13th and 14th. And the reason why I put it a month out is because I wanted you to have the opportunity to go through the 14-day challenge and to have the one-on-one with me before you actually attended the seminar. So that's why I did that. June 13th and 14th. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you during that weekend. And I hope to see you in the program. All right. So take care.